Hi viewers, in this video we will talk about the movie Mission Impossible Fallout. We will discuss the movie story, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. Additionally, we will cover the movie's production details and box office performance. Finally, we'll share some personal reactions. So let's begin with the movie story. The film starts with Ethan Hunt, played by Tom Cruise, getting married to Julia Meillard, played by Michael Monaghan. Only their marriage is officiated by Sloman Lane, played by Sean Harris, and Ethan starts to get scared. Lane says that Ethan should have killed him just before an explosion goes off, melting Ethan's face off as he holds Julia. Ethan wakes up in a safe house in Belfast where he is brought his latest mission. Since capturing Lane, the remaining members of the syndicate, calling themselves the Apocalypse, who has been continuing their terrorist activities, including releasing an outbreak of smallpox in Kashmir. They are currently working with a mysterious leader named John Clark to accord 3 plutonium core with the help of a kidnapped weapons expert named Neil Dilbrock. The mission is to stop the Apocalypse from getting the core before they can use it for what they want. In Berlin, Ethan meets up with Benji Dawn and Luther Sticker to make a trade with the Apocalypse for the plutonium. However, Luther is taken from his van by one of the Apocalypse and they demand the plutonium before they kill Luther. Ethan instead shoots Luther. He is wearing a bulletproof vest and then goes after the Apocalypse, but the cores have been stolen in the chaos. A news reporter on Wolf Blitzer's show details terrorist bombing in Mecca, Jerusalem, and Rome. Dilborg is a hospital bed watching this, and Ethan and Luther enter the room. They tell him that his manifesto has been seized by authorities and that it will be read on the news unless he gives up the passcodes to a phone containing information on Lark. Blitzer goes ahead and reads the manifesto, and Delbark opens the phone. The walls then come down as it was just an IMF trick to get him to cooperate, and Blitzer is really Benji wearing a mask. Ethan meets with new IMF secretary Alan Hanley, played by Alice Baldwin, who tells him that Lark is set to meet with an arms dealer known as the White Widow, played by Vanessa Kirby, in Paris that evening at a party the grain players to get the plutonium. They are then met by new CIA Director Erica Sloan and her agent August Walker. Because the mission in Berlin was a failure, Sloan doesn't have confidence in letting IMF operate on their own, so she has Walker go with Ethan to make sure the mission goes off without a hitch. Ethan and Walker get ready to jump out of a plane in the middle of thunderstorm. After they jump, Walker is struck by lightning and Ethan has to resuscitate him before they hit the ground. They manage to land on top of the Grand Players and head inside with the intent of knocking Lark out with the static and impersonating him to meet White Widow. They think they see him go into the bathroom, and Ethan identifies the man, played by Liang Zhang, and he fights him alongside Walker. Lark proves to be tougher than expected even after getting thrown through a mirror, but Lark knows him out with a laptop. Unfortunately, it's the laptop needed to make the face mask for Lark. He wakes up soon enough and continues to fight Ethan and Walker. He goes for his gun but is then shot in the head by Ilsa Faust, played by Rebecca Ferguson. They hide Lark's body in the stall as Ethan decides he has to pretend to be Lark himself. Ethan goes into a room using a wristband taken from Lark to gain access to meet White Widow. He sits with her and across suspicious from her brother Zola, but Ethan convinces her that she needs his assistance. Several Apocalypse in the room then try to kill White Widow, but Ethan and Insa kill them first, although White Widow manages to prove she can hold her own as well. Ethan goes to White Widow's home where the change is set to be made. Zola tells Ethan that the cores will be given to him once he has acquired the assets. Lane. They want him broken out as he will be transported from an armored convoy, and White Widow gives Ethan 1 crore as a down payment, with the other two being promised once Lane is brought to them. Ethan is concerned that he may have to kill police to complete the task, but he convinced Vice Widow that he can get the job done. Walker meets with Solon to give her false information that may implicate Ethan as Lark, even handing her a phone that he says belonged to him. Benji and Luther joins Ethan and Walker as they intercept the convoy and knock it into the scene. They get Lane out while Ethan and Walker ride away in motorcycles and are chased by police throughout the city. Ethan falls behind Walker, but he manages to evade them and meet up with Benji and Luther. As they are taking Lane away, Ilsa comes in on her way on cycle and tries to shoot at Lane, but they outrun her and head to their safe house. A policewoman sees them taking Lane, doesn't help that he has a bag on his head, and she orders the team to stop what they are doing. 4 men then shows up and one of them shoots the officer. Before they kill her, Ethan kills all 4 of them and has her call of her backup. They then take Lane to the safe house where he once again tells Ethan that he should have killed him. Ethan meets with White Widow again after he tells him that the men that were killed were her own. He reassures her that Lane is in their position and that he will be brought to them in London. Knowing that Ilsa has been following him, he speaks to her. She tells him that she has been tasked by MI6 to kill Lane. The team brings Lane to their safe house in London, where Honley finds them and confronts Ethan with a dossier that suspects him for being Lark. Honley wants to stop the mission, but Ethan tranquilizes him so that they can go meet with White Widow by having Benji wear a mask for him, while the real Lane is watched by Walker. As they proceed to go through with this, Walker talks to Lane and reveals himself as the real John Lark, having been in league the whole time with Lane to frame Ethan so that they can get to the plutonium. Walker then realizes that the Lane he was talking to as Benji and that Honley hears everything while also letting Solon hear it too. However, Solon sends her own men to extract Lane and Walker. Walker kills the man and stabs Honley before he gets away. Luther sticks Walker with the tracker. Ethan tries to help a dying Honley, but he tells Ethan to go get Walker. Benji guards Ethan using a tracker for himself to get Walker as he chases him through London. As he manages to catch up with Walker, he tells Ethan that he has to turn himself in and let their plan go through, or else they will kill Julia. The team gathered after they realize that the other 2 bombs are together and that they can be stopped when the countdown has been initiated. Luther tells Ilsa about Julia and how she and Ethan know they could not be together since his mission was more of priority than their relationship, and then Ethan must also care about Ilsa to be helping her. Ethan, Benji, Ilsa and Luther head to a campsite in Kashmir where they learn that Lane and Walker plan to contaminate the water supply in India, Pakistan and China to serve a third of the world's population, according to their belief that there cannot be peace without a great suffering. At the campsite, Ethan finds the Julia in there with her new husband Patrick. When Julia spots Luther, she realizes that they are on a mission. Ethan goes after Walker as he has the detonator and already set off the bombs. Luther finds the bomb behind a tower and starts to try and disarm it. Ilsa and Benji go to find Lane to get the other bomb. Ethan climbs up the rope of a helicopter after Walker boards another. Ilsa managed to locate Lane in a house where he is keeping the bomb, but he attacks her and ties her up. Benji goes after her and finds Lane, only for him to attempt to hang Benji. Ilsa frees herself and fights Lane until he manages to subdue him and cut Benji down before they have to disable the bomb. Meanwhile, Julia finds Luther and tries to help him. Ethan hijacks the helicopter after killing the 2 men inside. Walker attempts to shoot at Ethan to throw him off his trial. Ethan tries to drop a payload onto the other helicopter, but he misses. The helicopter then collides and starts to tumble down a mountain, but Ethan and Walker manage to get out quickly. Just as one copper is hanging over the edge of the cliff by a hook, Ethan goes for a detonator and Walker starts to fight him. They both fall over the side of the cliff and hang on by the rope. Ethan scales the side of the cliff and pulls the rope off, leading the hook to smash into Walker's head, sending him and the chopper crashing down. Ethan goes for the detonator just as his team manages to cut the wire with a mere second spare, after Ethan has already stopped the countdown. Ethan wakes up in the camp having been found by Solian in her own chopper. He sees Julia as he wakes up. He tells her how sorry he is for everything he has put her through, but Julia insists that she would never be where she is and she doing what she loves if she had never met Ethan. They part ways on last time where he hears Solon's voice that say that Lane has been handed over to MI6 with White Widow having acted as a broker between them and the CIA, and we see Lane being thrown into a trunk. Benji, Luther and Ilsa then joins Ethan as he is recovering. Now let's talk about the box office performance of the movie. 6 films in and Ethan Hunt shows no sign of slowing down. Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible Fallout scaled the international box office yet again, amassing $76 million from 56 markets abroad for an overseas total of $205 million. It pocketed $35 million in North America, bringing its domestic earning to $124.5 million. Following close behind in China, Hello Mr. Billionaire, which generated a massive $64.5 million. To date, the comedy has made $289.9 million. In third place, South Korean fantasy drama Along with the Gods The Last 49 Days booed internationally with $37.3 million. Among new offering, Disney's Christopher Robin opened with $4.8 million in 18 international territories. The live-action adaptation starring Ewan McGregor debuted in North America with $25 million for a global start of $39.8 million. Mexico has the best launch with a 4-day total of $1.4 million, followed by Russia with $1.2 million. Christopher Robin was next in Belgium, Netherlands and Thailand. It will not open in China. Another Disney title, Pixar's Incredible 2, pick up another $19 million in 42 overseas market for an internationally tally of $463 million. The animated superhero sequel has poked over $1 billion worldwide, including a mighty $583 million in North America. Incredibles 2 debuted in Japan with a 5-day total of $7.7 million, along with $4.5 million in Spain. It has become the highest grossing Pixar release of all time in New Zealand and Taiwan. Disney Marvel's Ant-Man and the Wasp made $11.2 million from 47 international territories, along with $4.2 million in North America. Mission Impossible Fallout scores franchised highest opening. Mission Impossible Fallout easily won the box office this weekend, scoring the franchise biggest opening in the process. Debuting in 1996, the action series has aged like a fine wine. 6 movies in, the property is stronger than ever, with many considering Fallout to be the greatest action film in recent years. The widespread is ethically acclaimed. Our previous entries, Goose Protocol and Rough Nation, led to those installments earning well over $600 million worldwide, and similar results were expected for Fallout. Going into its premiere, the thought was Fallout would break the opening weekend record for the Mission Impossible series and maybe even star Tom Cruise. With minimal competition standing in its way, the latest from director Christopher McQuarrie was able to stand tall and get off to a great start. Pre-box office mojo, Mission Impossible Fallout earned $61.5 million domestically in its first 3 days, which is a new best for the franchise. Previously, Mission Impossible 2 had the brand's biggest debut with $57.8 million. The film also did solid business internationally, as its worldwide total is $153.5 million. With a production budget in the neighborhood of $180 million, manage insurance costs for crew's ankle injury. This is the hall Fallout needed to be on the road to profitability. Obviously, the word of mouth played a key factor in this development. It has been a while since a live action tentpole receives widespread praise. Yes, Ant-Man and the Wasp is gratifies fresh on Rotten Tomatoes and boosts the Marvel Studios pedigree. But the conscious was there was a lighter entry into the long-running franchise. Fallout is seen as a bona fide modern classic that demands to be seen on the biggest screen possible. General audience was hungry for a film that lived up to the hype and came out to support the IMF's next mission. Additionally, Fallout is the first MI entry to be released in 3D, meaning it got a boost from the premium format prices. MoviePass may have blocked that Fallout this weekend, but plenty of people still got to the theater. As the last major blockbuster film of the summer season, Fallout is in great position to have a lucrative run throughout August. There are some noteworthy wide release that month, but few that jump out as direct competition for Mission Impossible target audience. By the time the film goes out of theater, it very well could be the highest grossing outing for Ethan Hunt, both worldwide and domestically. That will only increase the desire for a seventh Mission Impossible, though there's been no official word on that front just yet. Paramount Pictures' Skydance Mission Impossible Fallout is the fuse this weekend with an action-packed $155.83 million worldwide opening to wrap the best start over for the Tom Cruise franchise. Of that, $94.6 million up $206 million from the Sunday estimated comes from the international box office, where it's also the top launch for the Spy series. $623.9 from domestic, another franchise record. Out of just 36 market for 40% of the off-share footprint. Fallout is currently 23% ahead of Mission Impossible Rough Nation's 215 overseas star on a like-for-like basis. As we noted in our global preview, anything above the 131 opening for 211's Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol rips a worldwide record star from Ethan Hunt as core. With so much of the world to come on Fallout, including France, Japan and China, the latter dated August 31, it's early to put a multiple on it, but 700 million plus global is probably and would see the film leap to front of the line in the franchise. The Mission movies have increased in popularity internationally, with faraway locals serving as key to the narrative and Cruise, a globe-rotting force whose death-defying stunts continue to up the ante. The last two films in the series made 70% of their box office from overseas, aided by growth in emerging markets, and this one is teed up to continue the trend with a fair bit of runway ahead. Early on, opening projection for the Christopher McQuarrie helmed Fallout production cost $180 million were in the $75 to $80 million range overseas, with some going as high as $90 million. As of Friday, we knew this one was cruising past $80 million abroad, and then Saturday revived the engines beyond expectation. There's a joy on the Melrose lot as Paramount's president of international theatrical distribution, Mark Wine, tell me word of mouth has been a key driver on this, and when we saw our Saturday jump from Friday, it was just incredible. He also noted that the different format the film is playing in, from IMAX, which has select scene expanded exclusively for its scenes, to 3D and 4DX, make the film one of those must-see movies in a theater. Beyond cast is the quintessential movie for Cruise. The sons and dedication and tireless work which he is storing on the premieres and on the promotional side, it's amazing. He gives it his all, and this is where we end up, with an incredible film with him and McQuarrie. We could not have asked for anything more. It's incredible that the film delivered to this level, and with audience loving it worldwide, it's obvious that this movie is a home run. Paramount's Mary Daly, President of International Theatrical Marketing, and David Smith, President of Worldwide Marketing, led a global effort on Fallout with the overseas campaign positioning it as a summer movie event that delivered story and action and a new level of real stunts. Digital played a key role with unprecedented Viacom integration overseas. Key offshore partners include BMW, Chrysler and Airbus with Shell in the UK, LG in Korea, and MMMs in France and the UK. The iconic music Father score is by Lorne Bell was embraced with stunts and influencers through festivals including MTV's Isle of Malta, Rock in Rio, and One Day's Milano. Smartly learning into the World Cup, where were major game media buys and customized creative to engage in the conversation around the football. At the world premiere in Paris, Cruise wished France luck in the final, which was to be played and won by Les Blues just a few days later. Cruise also declared the movie a love letter to Paris. He and McQuarrie are joined there by a co-star Henry Cavill, Michael Monaghan, Rebecca Ferguson, Angela Bassett, Vanessa Kirby, and Simon Pegg. The team also traveled to London, Seoul, and Tokyo. In total, 29 offshore market board at number 1 for the weekend. 31 had the biggest star of the Mission Impossible franchise, and 18 are the best for a cruise movie. IMAX delivered 5 million from 276 overseas locations. 22 markets saw the top start, even the format for the franchise including Russia, the UAE, Korea, India, Hong Kong, Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina. Meanwhile, although Fallout is the biggest movie domestically and worldwide, it did not take the international crown this weekend owing to massive title in China, where Hello Mr. Billionaire took a locally estimated $132 million to rival the opening of last year's phenomenon Wolf Warrior 2. ComScore has it at $129 million. The comedy is based on Universal's 1985 Richard Pryor movie Brester's Million, more blues in the local language section. When China circles along to Fallout on August 31, it should be boosted by the participation of Alibaba Picture, which made it first Hollywood investment on Rough Nation. That film set records in its Riddle Kingdom run, grossing $166 million and historic rates. Adjusted and including China, Rough Nation finished at 437 internationally. In milestone news, Disney Pixar Incredible 2 enthuses to $1 billion worldwide. Through Sunday it has grossed 999, including $426.2 million internationally. When it passes, it will be the fourth movie of the year to hit the benchmark and Disney's third. Universal's Mamma Mia! Here We Go Again, which held the top spot in the UK to age Fallout, its closing is on $100 million overseas, and Disney or Marvel Ant-Man and the Wasp has crossed $200 million offshore and is scoring to $400 million global. Background and actual on the film above and more have been updated here. In the sixth outing as Ethan Hawke, Tom Cruise delivered the Mission Impossible series' best start ever internationally, globally, and domestically. His team with Rough Nation directed Christopher McQuarrie, the ninth time the pair have calibrated pulls on punches when it comes to stunts and actions, and grossed $94.6 million at the overseas box office for $155.83 million worldwide. In like-for-like markets, Fallout is running 23% ahead of Nation. We are still key measure to come, including France, which provides such for the backdrop of Fallout, Australia, Germany, Japan, Italy, and China, and there is competitive runaway ahead. France has figured in the top 5 market on all the previous mission installments and will open August 1. Japan, the lead market on the first 3 Mission Impossible and number 2 behind China on the part 2, also gets this coming weekend. The top 5 market overall on Rough Nation was China, Japan, Korea, and UK and France. Cruise and the Mission Impossible franchise has increasingly proved a perfect match to light a brief views of share. Rough Nation did 71% of its business overseas as the franchise has grown incrementally with audience. And as market emerges abroad, the international locals provide valuable backdrop to set piece, and there's much to be said for A.D. Hamilton's editing here, particularly in the case scene through Paris, which is one with great continuity. Cruise and the team were also tireless in their promotional efforts, traveling to key cities. That continually paid off in Korea, which is already a big cruise hub. It was the standout this weekend with 24.9 million from 937 locations and 67% market share. The number one opening is 85% above Goose Protocol and 22% above Rough Nation. This is the biggest cross opening in the market and the biggest pose for the Mission movies. The UK debuted at number 2 behind Mamma Mia 2, but number 1 including previews and benefiting from installment weather at the weekend. For 9.5 million at 585 cinemas, 101 above Goose Protocol and 26% above Rough Nation. India has a supercharged start at $8.2 million in 3004 location for 129% above MIGP and 38% above MIRN. This is the biggest cruise opening in the market, the biggest opening in the franchise, and the biggest Paramount launch for all time. Latin America and the Middle East also possess great stars. LATAM has not traditionally been a big region for the MI movies, but as overall business has increased since Goose Protocol, it marked up with Rough Nation and got another bump from Fallout, notably embracing 3D. Mexico was number 1 with 4.9 million at 815 cinemas, and the biggest franchise start at 177% above Goose Protocol and 13% above Rough Nation. Brazil delivered 4 million at 624 cinemas for number 1, 360% on Goose Protocol, 29% on Rough Nation. And the best cruise franchise opening, Colombia came in number 1 at $946,000 from 200 box office. Argentina opened in the second place with 945 at 202 cinemas. The Middle East region did 6.1 million. In the UAE, where the publicity from the hollow jump having been performed where will be helped, the gross was $3 million at 53 of 28% above Goose Protocol and 21% above Rough Nation. It's the top cruise franchise and Paramount opening ever in the market. Tom Cruise lets its Mission Impossible Fallout rocketing to $59 million debut. Tom Cruise's latest Mission Impossible Fallout is on its way to a number 1 debut at the North America box office with an estimated $59 million. Should prediction hold, Paramount's 6th installment of the franchise will finish on the upper end of recent forecast, which ranked from $50 million to $65 million at 4,386 sites. It will came out ahead of its precedor Mission Impossible Rough Nation, which debuted at $55 million in 2015 and also marked a franchise best. Rough Nation went on to gross $682 million worldwide. Christopher McQuarrie directed Mission Impossible Fallout after having directed Rough Nation. He also wrote the script for Fallout. The movie is produced and financed by Paramount and partner Skydance. Production headed by David Ilson. Cruise is a producer along with McQuarrie, J.J. Abrams, and Jake Mayer. Expect producers are Allison, Dana Goldberg, and Don Kringer. Simon Pegg, Rebecca Ferguson, Vince Rames, Alice Belvin, Mikhail Monaghan, and Sean Harris are reprising their role from previous films, while Henry Cavill, Vanessa Kirby, and Sean Brook are joining the cast. The franchise is based on the TV series that ran from 1966 to 1973. Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again is heading for second place with $15 million to its C4 weekend. The sequel film for Universal has so far earned $125 million globally, including $60.2 million from domestic sites. Amanda Seyfried, Colin Firth, Meryl Streep, Christine Baranski, Pierre Brosnan, Julie Walter, Meryl Streep and Stellan Skarsgård surprised their role from the original film with Lily James, Jessica Keenan-Fine, Alexa Device, Jeremy Levine, Hugh Skinner and Josh Dillon joining the cast. Sony's The Equalizer 2 should sing third place also in its second frame with $13.65 million. The Denzel fiction started has earned $54 million domestically since its debut and outstripped its producer in its opening weekend by $2 million. Animated sequel Hotel Transylvania 3 Summer Vacation is hoping to bring to another $12.4 million in its third frame, which should bring its domestic total to around $119 million. The Sony film, which has outpaced its precedents at the box office, continues to resonate with audiences which have spent around $237 million on it globally. Teen Titan Go to the Movies should earn around $11 million in its debut this weekend. The Warner Bros. Film features the voice talents of the original TV series cast for the main superheroes, along with Arnett as villain Slade, Kristen Bell as Jace Wilson, and Nicolas Cage as Superman. Series debutant Mitchell Jalen and Aaron Harvey wrote the script, with Peter Majel and Horvath directing. The film has a Rotten Tomato score of 89% and received a B+ cinema score. Elsewhere, Lionsgate Blind Spotting crossed at estimated 4,068,000 on Friday at 533 North American locations in a limited opening. The film is predicted to earn $1.3 million throughout the weekend. Directed by Carlos Lopez Estrada, Blind Spotting was written by and stars Rafael Casal and David Dix as two friends who struggle to stay on a peaceful path. Ethan Hunt's latest Mission Impossible is a big hit as Mission Impossible Fallout crosses $500 million worldwide. Since the last two entries in the Mission Impossible franchise was critically praised and financially successful, no one expected anything less for Fallout. The sixth film did bring back Mission Impossible Rough Nation director Christopher McQuarrie after all, and with Tom Cruise returning once again to star, expectations were high. Even still, Fallout has thrilled critics and audience alike, with many suggesting it made it the best for the franchise. The critical reception is one thing, but Fallout is also proving to be a great success at the box office. The movie opened to a franchise record $61 million weekend, held for a franchise best second weekend, and has only continued to increase its total in the following weeks. Now in its fourth weekend, the film has hit another milestone. As reported by Box Office Mojo, Mission Impossible Fallout is going to cross $500 million globally after 2 days. Ticket sales are delayed. It will do so after taking in a project $10 million in its fourth weekend domestically and performing well once again overseas. This makes Fallout the fourth film in the franchise to surpass this threshold and only the ninth film to do so this year. Overall, Fallout's performance is faring very well against previous installment of the franchise. It has now made over $180 million domestically after just 24 days, which is the best for the franchise to date. Mission Impossible 2 was previously the quickest to this mark domestically, and it is still the highest grossing entry here with a $215 million total. As long as Fallout's legs can contain strong in a coming week, it should have a shot at taking the crown as well. The worldwide total is also going to get a big uptick soon. Fallout will debut in Italy at the end of the month as well as China. The latter should prove to be a major priority for the movie if the performances of period films are any indication. The last two installments each earned over $100 million in China alone, and word of mouth for Fallout could make it another hit there. Even if it's just a comparable performance in China, it should push the film over $600 million worldwide by itself. The big record Fallout, likely as it eye on, is becoming the highest grossing film of the franchise. Mission Impossible Goose Protocol currently hold that title with a mighty $694.7 million worldwide. So Fallout still has its work cut out of it to get the conversation. Worst case scenario, it wind up being the third best of the franchise but lowest of the three most recent. Whenever it wind up falling in Mission Impossible ranks, Mission Impossible Fallout is performing just as well as everyone believed it would. The review of the movie. Great action movie develop a rhythm like no other genre. Think of the way the start scene Mad Max Fury Road becomes a part of the storytelling. Think of how Die Hard flows so smoothly from scene to scene, making us feel like we are right that we're John McCain. Think of the dazzling editing of Baby Driver and the way it incorporates sound design, music and action into a seamless fabric that's toe-tapping. It's obviously incredible praise to say that Mission Impossible Fallout reminds me of these films. It's got that finely turned perfect balance for every technical element that it takes to make a great action film, all in service for a fantastic script and ensured by great action performances to not just work within the genre but to translate it. This is one of the best movies of the year. For the first time in this franchise, director Christopher McQuarrie has made what is basically a direct sequel to the previous film, Mission Impossible Rough Nation. Wrestling absolutely no time, Fallout drops viewer into the narrative, getting the important detail out of the way so the action can get started. So many action movies spent forever with monologuing villains and extensive setups, but there's no fat on the movie even early on where action so often takes too long to get to the good stuff, and definitely not late when the movie is intense enough to leave you executed. A group called the Apostolate wants to create chaos. That's really all you need to know. They have a belief that buffering leads to peace, and so it's time to unleash the pain. They have been working with someone clearly on the inside at IMF codenamed John Lark and have conspired to obtain weapons grenade plutonium to create 3 dirty bombs. Ethan Hunt, played by Tom Cruise, has to get the plutonium back, but there's a ghost hunting him in the form of Sloman Lane, played by Sean Harris, the villain from the last film who Hunt left alive instead of killing. The head of the syndicate has been passed around intelligence agencies looking for information on the IMF agent killing group, but he's also part of this new plot to end the war. As the movie opens, Hunt is tasked by his boss, Alan Honley, played by Alec Baldwin, to go to Paris to find John Lark before he buys the plutonium. He is handed a sidekick by Alan's superior Erica Sloan, played by Angela Bassett, in the form of the British Agatha Walker Henry Cavill. Sloan is not sure she trusts Hunt or Henry, and so wants one of her own men on the crucial mission, someone she knows will do whatever it takes to complete the mission. There's a thematic undercurrent through Fallout as to how much one should be willing to sacrifice for the greater good. The classic spy flicks question for killing someone who you love to save the lives for millions you don't. It's the action movie equivalent of the trolley problem. The implication is that Hunt is too protective for those he loves, while Walker loves no one, and the movie viscerity is fascinating ways to which modus operandi is better for a super spy. Hunt is even described as the scalper to Walker's hammer. This dynamic duo heads to Paris and are joined before long by familiar faces by Luther, Benji, and Ilsa, and well, things get deadly fast. Fallout is one of those excellent action movies that works whether you pay attention to the plot or not. It is one of the most streamlined and fast-paced films in the Hollywood history, moving from one set piece to the next. Don't worry, there's a plot, and it's actually an interesting one that feels both timeless and current in the way that it plays with loyalty and intensity. But McQuarrie and Krause are keenly aware that they cannot lean too heavily on the plot or people will lose interest. We don't need speeches, and so the dramatic stakes of the setup are pretty much enough. Nuclear bombs, a double agent or two, a homicidal mastermind, now go. And man, does Fall go. Rough 7 of the 10 best action sequences of the year will be from this film. There's a wonderful diversity in action style too, from a skydiving nightmare to a car chase to, of course, a run tom scene to the already famous helicopter sequence. All of them features an intensity of moment that we hardly see in action movies anymore. Critics have already compared the film to Fury Road, I think that's why the fluidity of the motion that you see in both films. The great cinematographer Rob Hardy, the editor Eddie Hamilton, who did the last movie as well, he refined the action here, and McQuarrie is such a perfect way. We rarely do the geography of scene, which is so common in bad action and often feel like we are failing, speeding, or running with Hunt. The audience I saw it with was gasping and nervously laughing with each heart racing sequence. See this one with a crowd and as big as you can. Some of the footage was shot in IMAX and it worth the upcharge. Fallout is not the kind of film one often gets pumped for in regard to performance, but even those are better than average here. It's fascinating to see how Cruise is finally allowing his age to show a little bit, especially in early scene with Cavill, who looks like a tougher, stronger model of Ethan Hunt. Crow's latest version of Hunt stumbles a few times and his punches don't land with the force of walkers. It instills more relatability in a character who would have been less interesting as a superhuman spy, and the supporting cast is uniformly strong, especially Cavill and Rebecca Ferguson, who has the screen charisma for someone who really should be a superstar by now. Let's make that happen. It's easy to get cynical at the movie with 8 sequels in the top 10 last week. More and more people see the Hollywood machine as just that, something that spits out product instead of art or even entertainment. Perhaps the best thing I can say about Mission Impossible Fallout is that it destroys cynicism. It truly does that what so many people have looked for in entertainment for over a century. A chance for real world realities to take a backseat for a couple hours. You will be too busy worrying how Ethan Hunt is going to get out of this one to care about anything outside the theater. It's a rare action movie that can do that so well, that can not only escape but walk out kind of invigorated and ready to take on the world. Mission Impossible Fallout is one of those movies. In the 22 years since the original Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt remains the same moral compass and handsome, especially Online's face very much intact. Hunt's slick stunts created a new template for the spy thrills action main hero, but what sets him apart from his grittier contemporaries in his American altruism? Bond is methodic, Bond's plastics, John Wick through a valiant hitman, not a hero spurred by revenge. Hunt, on the other hand, is defined by his pathetic morality, a weekend portrayal in the 6th installment into something worth celebrating. This time, 3 Silver Bee Ords of Plantium have fallen into the hands of the Apocalypse and an anarchist group planning to use them to blow up the Vatican, Jerusalem and Mecca. Willing to trade the explosives for Solomon Jane, who Hunt captured in Rough Nation, Hunt's hands are tied. He is aided by trusty accomplished Luther and Benji. On goofy enjoyable form, and to this noise, CIA arranged by Agent Buck, played by Henry Cavill, CIA Chief Erica Sloan, played by Angela Bassett, describe him as a hammer to Hunt's scalper. Through an attractively carved block of wood would be more precise. More dynamic is Custatish criminal broker White Widow, the Crown's Vanessa Kirby, who speaks with a fabulous cavity purr. The legendary choreographic set piece sees the 56-year-old Krause jumping into the eye of the lightning storm. Swedish and Think the Ball of London state modern and rapping lines such as "We'll burn the bridge when we get to it." With a straight face, the charismatic Krause commands motorcycle, helicopter, ropes, and rubber marks, as well as the floating hearts of 2 women from this past: Mikhail Monacan Julia and Rebecca Ferguson, former MI6 agent Ilsa Faust. Genre conventional meets its forensic conclusion that this mission is not, in fact, impossible, but director Christopher McQuarrie cleverly control the ticking clock quality that makes these films so much fun. In 2017, disaster struck. DC's Justice League needed reshoot, but they conflicts with Mission Impossible Fallout due to a contract over a mustache. After shaving it off via CGI, Justice League flopped due to Henry Cavill's lip candy and not because of other issues. In 2018, we are finally able to see the glorious feature duster in all its majesty on Mr. Cavill's perfectly structured face. Unfortunately, this review is not about but instead the entire movie of Mission Impossible Fallout. The Mission Impossible film series launched in 1996. I didn't see that movie. My family would rent Mission Impossible 2 on VHS and I got scared because of the icy pictures of a guy who was the target of a biochemical attack. Then my family rented Mission Impossible 3 on DVD and I had a fun time because it was also converted in my MAD magazine. Mission Impossible Goose Protocol, the fourth in the franchise, is a turn in the franchise, ditching the numbers and adding new characters. I assume it's a movie I have not seen. I also have not seen number 5 Mission Impossible Rough Nation, so why skip around and see the 6th in the franchise Mission Impossible Fallout? It is because I have seen the trailer so many times in theater thanks to Movie Pass, but Henry Cavill reloading this fits to a drums beat is now scratched in my brain. Is because my friend John informed me that because I signed up for a yearly subscription to Movie Pass, I don't fall victim for the 3 movies per month that they are now passing because they are gone bankrupt. And oh god, I better start seeing as many movies as possible because I am going to lose this. Mission Impossible Fallout is about Agent Ethan Hunt, played by Tom Cruise, getting things done while the rest of his team watch as he gets things done and help while they can. Does Hunt need to improvise flying a helicopter? Done. Does Hunt need to jump from a building? Done. Does Hunt need to ride a motorcycle without a helmet? Done. What makes it all the more amazing is that it's Tom freaking Cruise doing these stunts at age 55. Tom Cruise, who breaks his ankle on camera and finishes the shot as he pursues the bad guy. As an actor, I give a lot of respect to Cruise, who puts himself at risk so you can have some enjoyment. With M1 Fallout, there's much to enjoy. The brisk action, the stunning scenery, and the well-crafted cinematography made Fallout a top-notch action film. When it comes to the plot, I mean, come on, you know if you're going to see this film or not. Although there are slight reference to other films, the main villain is from Mission Impossible Rough Nation. It's an easy film to understand in the most basic sense. There's just typical can we trust this person, double blossing and triple crossing, wall pressure and prop problem, but honestly I don't care. I came to see Tom Cruise run around Paris and shoot people. The main case is that Ethan Hunt must recover stolen plutonium. He messes up and CIA sends in Badass, August worker Henry Cavill, who must get the job done in Hennard cannot. Luther Stickle and Benji Dunn return for some funny moments and blah blah. Let's get to the action. What's great about this film is that it's motivating me to see the whole Mission Impossible collection that started 22 years ago. And when I drive to the library to rent Mission Impossible, I might just go one more mile above the speed limit after watching Fallout. It's hard not to push the pedal to the metal. For a moment here, the Mission Impossible franchise appeared to be getting a little long in the tooth. This was perhaps a decade course between the third and fourth film, when audience was not sure whether they were dealing with a trilogy or an open-ended series. Its star Tom Cruise was being a little too apathetic about this Scientology vindication in public. He had made a brilliant self-effacing cameo in Tropic Thunder, showing up in a fat suit and a bald cap, then retreated in the other direction in real life via a series of unconvincing age-defying posters, as if refusing to let go of this image as an eternal 20-something. All signs pointed to it being time for Mission Impossible Force operative Ethan Hunt to gracefully retire. How lucky for us that he did it. Not only have the films gotten better since, with each one surprising the last one as the most exciting and ambitious of the lot, but Hart himself has acquired gravitates along the way that distinguishes the series from its most obvious inspiration. The Jamsport movies of the 1960s, back with Sean Connery, was the franchise's first and only star, now playing to an audience that's forgotten. It ever realized that these films are inspired by a knockoff TV series from the same era. Mission Impossible Fallout is not just another stunt-driven save the world bonanza. Of course, it is that offering a whirlwind tour of Paris, London, and Kashmir. This time around, but writer-director Christopher McQuarrie on board of more after making slick work of the previous movie. Rough Nation smartly ties the sixth installment back into what has come before. This time, it is really is personally. Ethan Hart looks this age, even if that makes him the 55 years on Earth, sporting distinguished little wrinkle at the corner of his eyes that subtly underscore he is no hotshot Rocky. And this is not his first rodeo. If anything, that's what sees Fallout apart. It's aware of Hunt's previous experience and incorporates that into the narrative. The villain is someone we have seen before, Siri Lane, who made it in his mission to eliminate the IMF in Rough Nation. There's a wild reference to Vanessa Redgrave's character from the first movie, a poignant coda to a romance with Michael Monaghan from Mission Impossible 3, and an extension of that sexy spy who loved me dynamic with MI6 agent Ilsa Faust, played by Rebecca Ferguson from the last movie. And the masks are back in a big way. A silly, credibility staining contrivance in the 1996 movie, in which any character could rip off his face at any time to reveal someone else underneath. Now they function as a kind of nostalgia when CIA Director Erica Sloan, played by Angela Bassett, snipes IMF is Halloween, a bunch of grown men in rubber masks playing trick or treat. She's not wrong, and yet that cheeky ability to impersonate anyone is basically the thing that sets Mission Impossible apart. These are movies that dare you to believe your eyes, doubling down by insisting on doing many of the risky maneuvers practically in camera. Maybe you thought you had seen it all. Hart was claimed sheer rock faces, driving high-speed motorcycles, and dodge exploding helicopters. But the scenery has never been more spectacular. Whether he is standing atop the chimney of the Fate Modern with all of London laid out before him, or perching onto the glass roof of Paris Grand Place, whose versatile white bathroom supply the more memorable scene. The latter provides a strangely humoric encounter between Hunt and CIA assassin agent Walker. Man of Steel star Henry Cavill, looking stylish if not terribly charismatic, as they attempt to corner a nefarious arms dealer named John Lark in the crusty man's room. In Fallout, the mission is clear: recover 3 plutonium core before Lark and a terrorist organization known as the Apocalypse can use them to target the Vatican, Jerusalem, and Mecca in a single coordinated attack. But McQuarrie makes things complicated quick, allowing the payload to go missing and putting Hunt and his team, Luther and Benji, in a desperate race to recover the nuclear device before they can be used. The trick is to steer the action through scenic locations, orchestrating outdoor chases whenever possible. There's one through Paris that rival the breakneck pursuit of the elevated train in The French Connection, this time on French soil, while finding creative ways to keep the stakes grounded in relationships that have been firmly established in the previous films. Although Crowd's character never comes right out and says the words, "I am getting too old for this shit," the films demonstrate why he simply cannot stop exerting impossible missions, going as far as to explain why his marriage to Michael Monaghan's character from the third movie could not last. During their brief period of bliss, she was left to wonder who is watching the world while he is watching me. Hunt may be almost maniacally societal in his stunts, leaping off rooftops without looking, rushing through intersection at top speed, dangling from heights where the slightest miscalculation would mean certain death. But as long as she is alive, and that now goes for Ilsa as well, he will risk it all to protect them. Just when you thought you know who Ethan Hunt was, McQuarrie goes and defines what makes him tick. And ticking is what the Mission Impossible movies are all about. After all, from those self-destructing assignment message to the series signature, Paul's quickening score inventing here is a brilliant way by composer Lon Belfast with completely surprising instruments and orchestration that barely allows a moment's calm to the 15 minutes countdown clock on a pair of nuclear devices that comprises the film's finale compared with Cruise's other franchise anti-hero. The trilogy grizzles and relatively inherits Jack Reacher. Hunt is a regular Boy Scout, a clear cut against all odds action star who hesitate when forced to decide between speeding one life or serving millions. As far as Hunt's IMF boss is concerned, that's an asset, but it also fits with Krause's image as a materialistic martini idol. A figure whose unrelenting perfectionism ensures that he will save the day even with 1 second to spare. We elect movie stars the way we do what leaders buying tickets instead of casting ballots, and the reason Cruise has remained on top for more respective terms than Vladimir Putin is that he represents a kind of beast case American home cooking King Honky, a hero with a conscience unwavering in his convictions. Here the villain is a cynicism itself, not just slain by the mysterious Lord who has written a manifesto that insists the world has become so corrupt. It must face an act of great tragedy in order to bring about newfound peace. There are those within the government who agree with him, including rival partner Walker, who clearly holds less regard for human life than Hunt does. They are an exciting pair, each tasked with recovering the Plantium, yet plenty distrustful of one another. Walkers belong to the Make America Great Again school, while Hunt may as well as be asking, who said it's not great as it is? And that creates a sense of anticipation as we brace ourselves of the moment in which these two uneasy comrades will ultimately have to face off in a fight that's every bit as psychological as it's physical. McQuarrie and Inhalation RP Rob Hardy mesh well together, establishing the least intrusive technique the franchise has seen so far. McQuarrie has the confidence to let the material speak for itself instead of imposing his style the way someone like John Woo did. A decade ago, around the same time, the Mission Impossible series was starting to feel tired. Director Paul Greengrass pioneers as aggressive, almost detonating handle template for the John Parky movies that threatened to render classical action obsolete. But McQuarrie believes in creating coherent set piece. His combat scenes are tense, muscular, and clean, shot and edited in such a way that the spatial geography makes sense. He places audience just over Cruise's shoulder or staring into the actor's face as he grimaces with extortion. Ethan Hunt has never met an impossible, and yet for the thrill to work, audience needs to believe that this one could get away from him. Here, with everything that's he is ever cared about on the line, Hunt proves why he is Summer's more valuable action hero. On the way home from the new Mission Impossible 1, I mentioned to a grocery store checker that I had just seen and enjoyed it. He asked if I was a big fan of the original series, and as we discussed this, I realized that he just made the other movies. He's forgotten it started as a TV series until I mentioned it. This is one of those things as you can get a little older, you lose track of how much time has passed. I also happened with Jurassic World a few years ago. In my mind, Jurassic Park was an ongoing series that had made it to a part 4. But to a whole generation, it was holy shit. Remember the movie we saw in our youth? Now, a million years later, you can believe they are bringing it back for a new version or the nostalgia. And lately, I have noticed people declaring the stealth greatness of the Mission Impossible series, as if this was not a thing you would be aware of just for watching popular mainstream movies. It reminded me of when Fast 5 came out and suddenly a whole bunch of critics picked up those movies were fun. Yeah, no shit. The only other people is on the secret are the however many paying customer it takes to get a series to part 5. Well shit, nobody be alarmed about according to these figures. I am looking at we have been watching those Mission Impossible movies for 22 goddamn years. That's almost as long as the original show had been off the air when the movie started. The series is a month older than the guy currently playing Spider-Man. I think the first one is the best, and there was the time in 2000 when I was a little disappointed that the second one was not the type of John Woo movies I was hoping it would be, but also I enjoyed it as the other laser type of John Woo movie, and it has grown on me since. Every other chance I got 2006, 11 and 15, I was satisfied and excited by the new chapter. Now for the first time we have our returning director Christopher McQuarrie, Academy Award winning director of The Usual Suspects, director of The Way of the Gun, Jack Reacher, first recipient of the 5.0 action comprehensibility rating and Mission Impossible Rough Nation, and thought that violates what I once thought was the main purpose of the series. A new take by a new director every time out. McQuarrie, who also did uncredited rewrites on the set of Goose Protocol, has enough experience in the format to make a 100 proof simulation of all the series hallmark, especially the one that involves spectacular action sequence. Any of the Mission Impossible can stand on their own, but there's some continuity. Ethan, played by Tom Cruise, and Luther is all of them. And later Benji and Julia McGugan repeat. But this is the first directed sequel allowing up to the villain Solomon Lane, building off the things that happened in the last one that I didn't really remember. I love that it has a reference or echoes of little things from all the other installments. The helicopter action scenes that seems so crazy at the time of part 1 is dwarfed by a way more crazy one, so intense they were able to cut the part that ended the trailer without me even noticing. Hans part 2 Kill for 3 climbing comes in handy. Luther tells Ilsa the story of Ethan trying to get out of the game and live a normal life as a married man. There's a little speech about how many times Hunt has been betrayed or devoured by his country, an accurate description of the series. Along with the Rough Nations villain and his organization, we thankfully have the return of the Jamster breakout star, rough MI6 agent Ilsa Faust, played by Rebecca Ferguson, and I have read about other things I didn't pick it up. Now let's talk about the full cast and crew of the movie Mission Impossible Fallout. The movie is directed by Christopher McQuarrie. Writing credit goes to Bruce Saylor based on the television series Christopher McQuarrie. Cast: Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, Henry Cavill as August Walker, Ving Rhames as Luther Stryker, Simon Pegg as Benji Dawn, Rebecca Ferguson as Ilsa Faust, Sean Harris as Solomon Lane, Angela Bassett as Erica Sloan, Vanessa Kirby as the White Widow, Michelle Monaghan as Julia, Vaz Bentley as Eric, Frederick Shamitz as Zola, Alice Baldwin as Alan Honley, Lang Zhang as Lord Decoy, Christopher Joner as Niels Dabrock, Wolf Blizzer as Wolf Blizzer, Nabil Elki as Roddy Frenchman, Andrew Casanves Pin as Roddy Frenchman, Christophe DeChelsea as Roddy Frenchman, Raphael Dospres as Roddy Frenchman, Jean Dipsize Fallon as Roddy Frenchman, Olivia Halbint as Roddy Frenchman, Dean Ashton as police officer, Lexus Barsuda as nightclub agent, Maxime Dorian as the Russian killer, Sean Holm as officer worker, Alicia Mencia as CIA agent, Philon Royce as Portrayk. The movie is produced by J.J. Abrams as producer, Raphael Benoliel as co-producer from Paris, Per Henry Borch as line producer from Norway, Tom Curbuser, producer, David Ellison, executive producer, Donna Goldberg, executive producer, Tommy Gormley, co-producer, Don Granted, executive producer, Christopher McQuarrie, producer, Jack Mayers, producer. Music by Lorne Belface. Cinematography by Rob Hardy. Editing by A.D. Hamilton. Casting by Mindy Marlin and Toby Vale. Production design by Peter Winham. Art direction by Matt Gray, Olivia Hodge, Gray Joplin, Phil Sims, David Mary, Agatha Miloka. Set direction by Ellie Davis. Costume design by Geoffrey Portland. Mission Impossible Ending Explain. The Mission Impossible Fallout's high-octane ending. Since the 1996 debut of the blockbuster franchise, audiences have been confident that Tom Cruise agent Ethan Hunt and his Mission Impossible force would complete their mission and save the day, no matter what. However, the sixth installment in the series, director Christopher McQuarrie's Mission Impossible Fallout, dramatically lowered the stakes while taking the action sequence to ridiculous but entertaining new heights. So this time Hunt is haunted by his past, with enemies of old, namely Solomon Lane, played by Sean Harris, and the love of his life Julia, returning to leave his torn between duty and emotion. But in the film's high-octane final, McQuarrie delivers does not only age of sheer seed thrills reshapes Hunt's future and his mission. Fallout revolves around recovering stolen plutonium which the Syndicate Slammers army from the previous entry, Rough Nation, has put into play. In the form of two nuclear devices, the Syndicate, now a bunch of contractors known as the Apocalypse, is still a thorn in the IMF's side, leading to Hunt and his CIA rival August Walker, played by Henry Cavill, reluctantly working together to retrieve the plutonium from the mysterious terrorist John Locke. Sadly, Walker turns out to be Locke, a journal in the Apocalypse, and pits the IMF against the CIA so he can trick Hunt into extracting his important leader Lane while he keeps the plutonium. Walker succeeds and arms his device feeling free and believes he achieves his purpose of destabilizing a corrupt world. Lane prepares to end his life when the bombs detonate and the couplets frame Hunt as once again a rough agent. In one of cinema's most bombastic finals, Hunt journeys to a medical camp in Pakistan where Lane intends to detonate the bomb because the nuclear fallout will poison the water supply to India, Pakistan and China, thus killing one-third of the world's population, and 2. It will kill Julia, now confirmed as Hunt's ex-wife and who's carrying out humanitarian work there with her new husband, Patrick's Wiz Bentley. Lane no longer cares whether Hunt is taken in by the authorities because he has done just enough to fool everyone into thinking Hunt is Locke and believing the IMF and CIA cannot be trusted. Basically, he will nudge society into anarchy. But as his Hunt modus operandi, every time the accomplices think they have killed him, he gets back up and, with the help of Benji and Luther, figures out a plan. It requires Hunt to retrieve the detonator, which leads to an epic helicopter chase between him and Walker, culminating in a cliff fight to the death. Hunt's squad has 15 minutes to disarm the bomb as they need to count down to start to carry out the plan, but it requires them to be two places at once. Luther and Julia attempt to defuse one device at her medical camp, while Benji and Ilsa, Hunt's new love interest and British MI6 spy from the previous film, played by Rebecca Ferguson, tear down Lane and try to defuse the other bomb. The huge threat is that they need to cut their cord at the same time as Hunt disables the detonator. With radio contact gone and Hunt hanging off a cliff after killing Walker, they go on blind faith and cut their cords with 1 second left. Luckily, Hunt has only just disabled the trigger, and so the world is safe once more. That leaves our hero Bothard and Pratchett resting atop the cliff, awaiting for pickup. With the apocalypse plan threatened once more, Hunt simply wants to see his team again, especially Ilsa, knowing he can rest easy for now. With the entire completion of the IMF and CIA alters because of log, keep down Hunt's knows there's still a lot to fix. Tom Cruise reprised his roles as Ethan Hunt in Fallout, joined by returning co-stars Rebecca Ferguson as Ilsa Faust, Ving Rhames as Luther Sticker, and Simon Pegg as Benji Dawn, along with franchise newcomers Henry Cavill, Angela Bassett, and Vanessa Kirby. Christopher McQuarrie, who wrote the director's 2015 Mission Impossible Rough Nation, is also back for its sequel, also starring Rebecca Ferguson, Mitchell Ronagan, Alice Belvin, Sean Harris, Sean Brockie, and Frederick Sachmet. Mission Impossible Fallout is in the theater nationwide. Mission Impossible Fallout ending may just be the best in the franchise history. The full film is a step-up even for the already giddy heights Tom Cruise and co. are playing at, yet it's how the spectacular final wraps up ideas running throughout the movie. Its direct procedure, Mission Impossible Rough Nation, and the whole franchise that's so impressive. Mission Impossible movies typically follow the same basic plot. Ethan Hunt is on a mission. Things go south. He is suspected for having gone rough. He goes rough and fight to prove his innocence. Everything's usually rather convoluted along the way, but it's a formula that has not got tried in the past 22 years, with each new movie having a fresh take on the franchise. But none are quite as innovative as Mission Impossible Fallout. At 148 minutes, it sees Christopher McQuarrie playing on a much bigger canvas, and alongside the several in-camera action, he uses that time to explore just who Ethan Hunt is. Tom Cruise, Constance, and whatsoever has long been an enigma, but how the real beating heart behind his has been explained. Mission Impossible Fallout is very complicated plot. So, Mission Impossible movies always has respectively complex plot, and Fallout might just take the nuclear cake. Much of its exposition comes in the pre-lethal sequence after the capture of Solomon Lane at the end of Rough Nation. The arraignment of the syndicate of Nazi rough agents known as the Apocalypse are continuing his attempt at tearing the world down to start anew, with the mysterious John Locke dealing with them to claim 3 plutonium care to intact their plane. Ethan Hunt loses these in a buy gone wrong caused by completion of his team, but manages to trick the scientists behind the bombs into giving up their technical readout. All he has to do now is track them down. Easier said than done. Intel suggests Locke plans to purchase the plutonium from the Apocalypse via broker White Widow, but when Ethan, now accompanied by CIA oversight Augusta Walker, who says to boss Erica Sloan he suspects Hunt is Locke and is using the entire mission as a cover, tries to observe, he winds up having to pose as John himself. Inside the Window's inner circle, he learns that as payment for the course, he will need to free Solomon Lane during his transportation between world powers in Paris. He manages to do this, although not without crossing paths with Ilsa Faust, who has been tasked by MI6 to assassinate Lane and takes the captive to London. In London, the plan is presented to have Benji dress up as Lane for the Apocalypse, with the real Solomon left behind to be overlooked by Walker. However, that's all a trap. When Hunt leaves after defying Sloan, who shuts down the mission, Walker accidentally reveals himself as Locke to Benji in a Lane mask. Lane is working with the Apocalypse, and although nuclear annihilation is still the goal, framing Ethan was a key part of it. However, while Hunt at first thinks he is captured both Locke and Lane The villains have backup and, following a foot-breaking chase through London, escape with two of the Plutonium core. This brings us to the final. Lane's plan is to set the bombs off in Kashmir. Plotting the water of an entire portion of the wards is already sticking with smallpox. He also has Ethan Hunt's estranged wife Julia moved there for extra personal victory points. Lane stays behind, happy to die in the destruction, while Lord leaves with the detonator. Benji, Luther and Ilsa manage to get the bombs ready for disarmament, and Hunt deactivates them after catching up to Walker. What John Locke wants. Mission Impossible Fallout has two villains working towards with same goal to cleanse the world by putting it through hell, yet with opposite motivations. August Walker, the real John Locke, believes fully in the cause. He orchestrates Lane's release and the plutonium bombs, and in the grand scheme will be the one to lead the apocalypse going forward. His goal is to achieve what the syndicate wanted. This is reflected in how he approaches the mission. He is introduced as the CIA hammer to Hunt's IMF knife, and while his loyalty is not live there, he is a man of brute force, a strong fighter, aggressively confident and opposing a powerful backup. Like Lane, he is also a schemer, able to repeatedly escape. Ethan grabs thanks to his advanced plotting, although his arrogance repeatedly underestimates his opponents, getting discovered and repeatedly trailed when ideally he'd leave them behind completely. He repeatedly dismisses IMF as men in Halloween masks and beyonds Hunt for everything being so fucking complicated. What Sloman Lane wants. Sloman Lane was already established in Mission Impossible Rough Nation as a dark mirror to Ethan Hunt, committed to terror instead of safety. He was the agent gone bad, the one who willingly went rough and took those more corruptible than Ethan. His goal in Rough Nation was to destroy IMF and especially its top agent. Even with his grand plan, Lane had an obsession with Hunt and desired to make him suffer. He knew he was the only one who could stop him. In Mission Impossible Fallout that returns, the apocalypse plot and his attack on Ethan are intertwined, with his framing Hunt and causing a smallpox outbreak just so Walker can place Julia as a medical aid worker at the Kashmir village where the bombs will go off. Sloman Lane believes in the cause but has personal grievances to address too. In the end, he doesn't even get a knowing death and is returned to the UK Secret Services. Lark and Lane represents two common villain archetypes, the planner and the attacker. One is obsessed with the scheme and has the hero intersect, while the other has the hero as an intrinsic part of their plot. More often than not, when the villain is intended to reflect the hero, we see these traits merged into one. See much of the MCU plot field in Spectre and Lane himself in Mission Impossible Rough Nation, but Fallout delineates them into two characters, meaning the individual motivation can be greater explored and the imbalance is highlighted. After all, it's by playing on these differences that Ethan Hunt wins over the breakneck helicopter chase. Walker slowly loses his calm exterior to become an intrigued brute attacking Hunt not because it will stop his plan. He doesn't pay much attention to the detonator at all, but out of poor emotion, his party boy exterior is wrapped by scattered engine flawed, and finally a giant hook and his entire existence hangs on fighting Hunt. Conversely, Lane might have concentrated the ultimate game for Ethan and spends much of the countdown toying with Benji and Ilsa, yet in the final moments, because generally concerted with the plan's execution, Ethan villain becomes the other type when pushed against his highlighting inherited character's flaws. That's what Mission Impossible Fallout story presents, although what the movies really focus on is reading the hero. To do that, we need to go deeper. Mission Impossible 6 finally explains Ethan Hunt. Throughout the Mission Impossible franchise, one consistent complaint has been the allegedly confused characterization of Ethan Hunt. Indeed, his personality changes as much as the tone or style brought about by a new director, with Mission Impossible 2 State Action Hero and Ghost Protocols on thinking Daredevil the same in the name only. There is an arc to be gleaned if you dig deep. as Patrick Williams did in a recent video lecture, but that doesn't go all the way to underpinning the story. Mission Impossible Rough Nation seems to address this by abstracting Hunt. Everything about his death-defying act become too extreme, with the character pushing himself to insane level with his comrade simply could not fathom. When Alice Badwick's Alan Hanley declared Hunt is the living manifestation of destiny, it was not totally ironic. Ethan is something more than human. Mission Impossible Fallout is really the counterpoint argument is what is essentially his second part of his initial exploration. Christopher McQuarrie, the first returning director in the franchise history, asks the converse question, what makes a normal person become Ethan Hunt? The answer is not hidden. Early on, Hanley states quite clearly to Ethan that while he believes his compassion for his friends is his big weakness, it's actually his greatest strength. And the rest of the movie is essentially an extended case study of this. Throughout, we see Ethan risk his life, the task at hand, or something otherwise personal to save others. He jumps after Walker into a lightning storm and transfers his oxygen mid-air, configure the plane to spring Solomon Lane so no civilians are killed. Pursues then escapes to save an unfortunate police officer, pleads with Ilsa to step away. This is why the high spectral helicopter chase stands out amongst Mission Impossible finals. Once again, it's about Ethan Hunt saving the world for assured destruction, yet this time we really know why he is doing it. Hunt is the compassionate rebuke of the notorious quite, after albeit seriously attributed to Stalin. The death of one man is a tragedy, the death of millions is a statics. In events that threaten millions, he never loses sight of the individuals. He pushes his party to breaking extreme because of an unwavering empathy of those around him. That does destroy a person inside and out, especially in the world of Mission Impossible where the left of fight scenes make clear every hit hurts, and in contrast to modern superhero cinema added by the casting of Superman himself and his civil means death is ever present. But Mission Impossible is also just word where Ethan's scratching is rewarded. Both villains fail in the narrative because the heroes stop them just in time. But in a thematic sense, it's because there's a negative desire to destroy civilization, and our Ethan cannot match Hunt's overwhelming positive will. Tellingly, this is the theme that sits at the front of McQuarrie's other work. Most prominently, albeit in a darker form, with care shows in the usual suspects. Julia was key to Ethan, but not anymore. At the center of Ethan Hunt's emotional arc in Julia Meade, introduced in Mission Impossible 3 as Ethan's obvious fancy, Julia came to represent the normal life that he could never have. Mission Impossible 3 ended with the pair married, but Ghoul's protocol twisted the marriage into a dark past, with Ethan putting Julia in hiding to protect her so he could go out and save the world. It was the ultimate sacrifice. He gave up his one to save the millions. She was completely absent from Rush Nation but returns in Mission Impossible Fallout for the film's most heart-wrenching scene. A key part of Lane's way to destabilize Ethan is to have Julia, whose CIA protector was Walker, working in the basin where the two bombs will go off, a symbol of his inability to save her. This tragedy is compounded when she reveals herself just as the team are finding the first plutonium core. Introducing husband Patrick, it's not so much that Julia has found someone else, it's that her connection to Ethan is still putting her in danger. Julia was the physical representation of what Ethan Hunt could have been, a normal guy, married and blissfully happy. Fallout extends to make the sacrifice a case of duty. It's a cautionary tale Luther tells Ilsa, and so her presence is intended to weaken him. However, she instead proves to be essential to the questioning arc. In accepting everything what's happened, Ethan does not only save the day but manages to understand who he is. Mission Impossible is our team once again. Mission Impossible Fallout exploration of Ethan Hunt's composition goes both ways. He will always give himself to save others, but so too is he spotted by a team of IMF agents with equally complicated motivations and personal drives. The construction of the panel is done so that each of the keys can replace Ilsa, Luther, and Benji have an essential role to the plate right down to the line, fitting of Ethan's weakening turn strength. If anyone doesn't came through exactly, the entire world is in danger. They even take the plunge at the last second, not knowing whether Ethan had succeeded, a perfect show of expectations and trust. McQuarrie is not just interested in showing that Ethan will do anything for his team, but to highlight the power of the group as well. That takes the themes already discussed wider, presenting theme as something to be universally learned from. In the framework of the Mission Impossible franchise, this is a major step. The 1960s TV show was so assembled something Brian De Palma's first film expanded to shocking effect. Original protagonist Jim Phillips portrayed IMF and only new character Ethan Hunt was left alive, and since it's very much been Tom Cruise's show, the team suspect has mostly been a key backdrop that Rhymes has returned for every movie in a delightful touch, but especially in the more recent efforts, the focus was singularly on Ethan's daring. In the final scene, somewhat reminiscent of the Lord of the Rings equally all for one and one for all recovery, this arc for Ethan is solidified. He lets Julia go and live free with Patrick and embarrasses his team each on an individual level. Most importantly, for the first time he shows how physically wounded he is. IMF is back, ready for Mission Impossible 7. But as has already been allowed by Simmer Pegg, Mission Impossible Fallout is not the end of IMF. Indeed, with the recontractation of Ethan Hunt, the series has essentially created a blank slate for the future. Hunt is known as his biggest emotional hang-up have been addressed, while the specific focus on the team makes clear the IMF, which is now without a leader after the death of Honley, is said to be an ensemble effort. With this playing field, Mission Impossible 7 can pretty much to do what it likes. The return to a status quo after a self-justifying adventure is very similar to what James Bond recently attempted with Skyfall and Spectre, although considerably stronger. There, while the first was an undoubted success, the second proved too confused over what it wanted 007 to be. It was Dark Knight seriousness mixed with throwback humor and a reflective plot, just like Mission Impossible Fallout, but there was no cohesive throughout line. But seen in the return to status quo moment, instead seeing Bond run away. By this comparison, not only does Fallout provide a thoughtful look at what the franchise is while telling a new adventure it configure to give the future best freedom. The posters are still out there. That said, there are still some key plot aspects out there that cannot be exploited in a Mission Impossible 7. The biggest, of course, is the Apocalypse, the remnant of the Syndicate. John Lark is dead. Slomalane is now under the watchful eye of the British, but the many other rough agents are still out there loitering in the shadows. Not that their faces were not shown, leaving ample opportunity for adventurous casting in the future. We also have the White Widow and her brother, another British field fatal. She is revealed to be allied with the CIA in the final moments, placing the character firmly in the morally ambiguous category. With a familiar connection to Vanessa Redgrave's mix from the original Mission Impossible, this is a new area very easy to return to. Mission Impossible has always shared massive, overarching continuity with Fallout. The first time the story has continued from the previous entry, and even that was bold. Another problem with Spectre in comparison. It took narrative threads instead of thematic ones. However, in establishing a clear grand antagonist and continuing to build the world, the series can gain some sense of purposeful structure as it enters in third decade, with at least some weak pre-plot justification for the 56 years old Krause continuing to expect the mission, and now Ethan Hunt knows his greatest strength, less than nothing is stopping him. How Mission Impossible Fallout sets up the inevitable sequel. Tom Cruise, Ethan Hunt always find a way to defy the odds. After 5 films in the Mission Impossible franchise, we might think time would have run out after the Mission Impossible Force Agent somehow. However, assignment after assignment to manage to save the world, living to fight another day. The sixth movie in the series Mission Impossible Fallout is no different. It continued the narrative started in 2015 Rough Nation with fallen MI6 agent Newt Sloman Lane and places Hunt up against a wall again. Impersonating terrorist John Locke, luckily Hunt, Scrap Spy are redeeming the IMF's reputation and dealing with the betrayal by his CIA partner Auguste Walker. But this is not a one and done deal because Dr. Christopher McQuarrie cleverly sets the stage for Hunt to continue his IMF missions against an enemy that just will not go away. In Fallout, Lane's army of Rush agents, the Syndicate, has evolved into the apocalypse with Walker as their general. He has used his CIA cover to arm 2 nuclear bombs, rescue Lane from capitative, frame Hunt as a traitor, and in the process destroy the reputation of the IMF and CIA. In the end, however, Walker is killed by Hunt as his team, including Benji and Luther, defuse both bombs. With the aid of Ilsa Fast, who has tasked by MI6 with killing its former asset, they take down Lane, opting not to kill him as he is the key to weeding out of hidden apocalypse. Sadly, it's not really a happy ending because while it feels as if the heroes win the day, there are several loose threads that still need to be tied up. Hunt and co had to free Lane to try to get the plutonium for the bombs, but they did so by working with the CIA, which in turn was brokering seeds deal with the suspicious White Widow, the daughter of the villain Max from the first movie played by Vanessa Kirby. Hunt fell into their crosshair and tricked them into thinking he was locked, so both parties do have revenge on their agendas. Another future plot that sets up in Lane's fate, the CIA eventually trades him to MI6, overseen by Agency Chief Erica Sloney, but the deal takes place at night with the Windows crew suffering Lane in a trunk for transport back to MI6 with the rest of the apocalypse on the loose. That easily set up Widow's crew to be attacked by the apocalypse looking to free Lane before MI6 can secret him away. Given how deep Lane's network runs, we cannot rule out of the possibility that he has a mole in the Widow's team. Widow's was quite shady too, so there's a chance that she could fake her deal as a CIA broker and informer and look to a bigger payday from Lane's apocalypse. McQuarrie also reinforced Hunt to team up with his new love interest Ilsa, who's now back in MI6 after being redeemed for capturing Lane. The director has made it clear this apocalypse has infiltrated several key organizations, so Hunt would need a lot of help in snuffing them out. Either way, the apocalypse roaming the world means the looming threat of more terrorism. Lane is transit hints he will be broken out yet again, and Widow's own faction operating with some sort of immunity are all reasons why Hunt will need at least one more mission to clear out all the villains on the chessboard. With Solange's agent Walker having turned out to be a apocalypse too, Hunt will also continue have to resist the IMF and CIA working together. McQuarrie already hinted the world's top agent may have to go after some of his current colleagues as well. It may seem like a long laundry list at present, but hey, it's Ethan Hunt, so we know it's not an impossible task to accomplish. Tom Cruise replaces his role as Ethan Hunt. Mission Impossible Fallout, the end you have always feared is coming. The villainous Solomon Lane tells Ethan Hunt halfway through Mission Impossible Fallout. The fallout of all your good intentions. If the Mission Impossible franchise has one more specific problem, it's this. It took a very long time to tell us who Ethan Hunt was. From the beginning, Hunt, as played by Tom Cruise, was a bit of a sci-fi Mission Impossible Rough Nation. Change that. The previous entry in the Mission Impossible franchise took a step back and finally asked, who is Ethan Hunt? The answer is kind of a crazy jerk, someone who will risk everyone's life just to come out ahead. This was a fascinating development in Ethan's character trajectory, but perhaps Director Christopher McQuarrie, who is in the first development in Ethan's character trajectory, Mission Impossible franchise filmmaker to return for a second time, realized it was a bit too much, that the series could not realistically continue if Ethan had remained a borderline psychopath. Which brings us to Fallout, the most breathless, exciting, action-packed installment in the series yet. I don't know if I'm quite ready to call it the best entry in the series. Rough Nation still holds the distinction as of now, but I'm ready to declare Fallout to be the most thrilling mission, a film so relentlessly entertaining that it might actually execute you believe the hype. This really is the best action movie since Mad Max Fury Road. A direct sequel. Beyond the big jaw-dropping action set piece, Fallout does something very interesting. It's rehabilitates Ethan Hunt. It takes steps back from the brick of his Rough Nation character description and goes down another path. Here is a film that finally tells us who Ethan Hunt is. He is someone willing to make a potentially bad choice to help the people who cares about. And IMF chairman Alan Hanley, played by Alice Belvin, says Hunt is the type of spy who is not willing to sacrifice one life to save thousands or more. He is not a big picture person, he is focused on the smaller picture. Because in Hunt's view, saving one life is the same exact thing as saving thousands. This can get a bit heavy-handed. There are several scenes in Fallout where characters stop and give speeches about what a great guy Ethan Hunt is. It works in the context of the film, but one cannot help realize it's all a bit self-serving. Because when you boil it down, Tom Cruise and Ethan Hunt, there's one in the same. And if everyone in the film is giving speeches about what a swell follow Ethan Hunt is, it's tantamount to the same characters signing the praise of Cruise, who produced this franchise, but you can blame them. Cruise is one of the last genuine movie star, and the Mission Impossible franchise has given him the opportunity to seriously rehabilitate his image. Around the time of the release War of the Worlds, Cruise's persona and career took a nosedive due to some very questionable public appearances. Ever since then, he has been climbing his way back to the top, one dangerous stunt at a time. Throughout this series, Cruise has become both actor and stuntman, constantly putting his life in danger for the sake of entertainment. On one hand, it takes for good press. We all want to talk about how entertaining it is to watch Cruise risk curtained death for the sake of an action movie. On the other hand, it really is generally thrilling. We are rightfully amazed as we watch Cruise leap from planes or jump between buildings or dangle from helicopters. All of this stuff could easily be faked with green screens and digital trickery, but it is not really happening, and Cruise is really doing it, and Goose warned it. That's exciting. Fallout is the first Mission Impossible to serve as a direct sequel, and not just to Rough Nation either. Sure, all the Mission Impossible films exist within the same universe, but up until now they have all been standalone stories. Fallout takes a much different approach. It's an explicit follow-up to the events in Rough Nation, but more than that, it's a film that references the stories as whole. It's almost as if McQuarrie and Cruise are reverting the franchise fans. They are saying thank you to everyone who stuck around for 6 movies and providing that it was all worth it. Remember arms dealer Max from Mission Impossible? Well, her daughter, who has the super cool nickname The White Widow, is in the film, played by Vanessa Kirby. Remember when Ethan Hunt did some rock climbing in Mission Impossible 2? He gets to do that again here too. Ethan got hatched 2 very nice Nurse Julia Meade in Mission Impossible 3, and ever since then the franchise has been trying to figure out what to do about that. Mission Impossible Goose Protocol featured a fake out where the audience was made to believe Julia had been killed only to have her show up at the end. Rough Nation did not mention her at all. Here, McQuarrie's script finally gives Julia her due and directly involve her in the film's big climax. At the end of Rough Nation, Ethan Hunt and his team had seemingly fueled by Syndicate, a rough organization comprised of secret agents from all over the world, fronted by unpleasant Pedro Solomon Lane. Unlike other mission body before, Lane survived the events of Rush Nation and ended up in custody. Now, Ethan has started to think that might have been a mistake. He is haunted by nightmares of Lane, and while the Syndicate has been wounded, it's not dead yet. The remaining members of the Syndicate are now calling themselves the Apostles, and they want to get their hands on some plutonium cores to build nuclear weapons. The Apostles don't just want to set off some bombs, though they have a diabolical plan to throw the entire world into energy and chaos, with what they believe to be a noble goal. The Apostles believe that if everything is chaos, world power will have no choice but to work together to fix things. It's pretty sure the same exact plan the Ozymandias has in Watchmen, minus the giant fake squid alien. Mission Impossible Fallout is the movie played by Ethan Hunt as the main character. The mission, should you choose to accept it, at Fallout start, Ethan's commitment to caring about one life instead of thousands backfires while posing as plutonium buyers. Hunt has his team Wing Rames as the ever-present Luther sticker and Seaman Pig as the nervous Benji Tin get made. Luther's life is in danger, and Ethan could just let Luther die in order to keep the plutonium safe and prevent possible nuclear annihilation. Instead, Ethan shoots Luther, who happens to be wearing a bulletproof vest. In the soaring chaos, the apocalypse makes up with the plutonium, and the IMF is once again under some heavy scrutiny from Washington. How this agency, which has been debuted several times as is constantly being called out for recklessness, continues to operate is one of the film's biggest suspension of disbelief elements. Ethan is committed to tracking the plutonium down and stopping the apocalypse. How? We will think of something. He says a line that becomes Hunt's mantra in the film. He repeats it several times when pressed for an answer as to how he is going to solve a big problem. The answer is not good enough for CIA Chief Erica Sloan, who ordered one of her agents, the very handsome, very mustachioed August Walker, played by Henry Cavill, accompany Hunt on the mission. Hunt and Honley don't like this idea, but they're stuck with it. Cavill is a delightful addition to the franchise. It's clear from the start and from the trailers that this character is going to turn out to be a villain, but the actor brings charisma mixed with brutality. If Ethan Hunt is a scalper, as Sloan calls him, Mission Impossible Fallout, the fallout of all your intentions. If the Mission Impossible franchise has one specific problem, it's this: it took a very long time to tell us who Ethan Hunt was. From the beginning, Hunt, as played by Tom Cruise, was a bit of a cipher. Mission Impossible Rough Nation changed that. The previous entry in the Mission franchise took a step back and finally asked, who is Ethan Hunt? The answer: he is kind of a crazy jerk, someone who will risk everyone's life just to come out ahead. This was a fascinating development in Ethan's character trajectory. But perhaps Dr. Christopher McQuarrie, who is the first Mission franchise filmmaker to return for a second time, realized it was a bit too much. That the series could not realistically continue if Ethan Hunt remained a borderline psychopath, which brings us to Fallout, the most breathless, exciting, action-packed installment in the series yet. I don't know if I am quite ready to call it the best entry in the series. Rough Nation still holds that distinction, as of now, but I am ready to declare Fallout to be the most thrilling mission. A film so relentlessly entertaining that it might actually exert you believe the hype. This really is the best action movie since Mad Max Fury Road. A directed sequel. Beyond the big jaw-dropping action set piece, Fallout does something very interesting. It rehabilitates Ethan Hunt. It takes steps back from the brink of this rough nation character description and goes down another path. Here is a film that finally tells us who Ethan Hunt is. He is someone willing to make a potentially bad choice to help the people he cares about. As IMF chairman Alan Honley says, Hunt is the type of spy who is not willing to sacrifice one life to save thousands or more. He is not a big picture person, he is focused on the smaller picture. Because in Hunt's view, saving one life is the same exact thing as saving thousands. It can get a bit heavy-handed. There are several scenes in Fallout where character stops and gives speeches about what a great guy Ethan Hunt is. It works in the context of the film, but one cannot help realize it's all a bit self-serving. Because when you boil it down, Tom Cruise is Ethan Hunt. They are one and the same. And if everyone in the movie is giving speeches about what a well-followed Ethan Hunt is, tantamount to the same character signing the praises of Cruise, who produced this franchise. But can't you believe them? Cruise is one of the last junior movie stars, and the Mission franchise has given them the opportunity to seriously rehabilitate his image. Around the time of the release of War of the Worlds, Cruise's persona and career took a nosedive due to some very questionable public appearances. Ever since then, he has been climbing his way back to the top, one dangerous stunt at a time. Through this series, Cruise has become both actor and stuntman, constantly putting his life in danger for the sake of entertainment. On hand, it makes for good press. We all want to make how entertaining it is to watch Cruise risk contain death for the sake of an action movie. On the other hand, it really is genuinely thrilling. We are rightfully amazed as we watch Cruise leap from planes or jump between buildings or dangles from helicopters. All of this stuff could easily be faked with green screen and digitally trickery. But here, as we talk about the movie, the Mission Impossible. The Mission Impossible Fallout, the most exciting mission yet. Once Lane is sprung, Fallout really brings to motor and any and all capable drop away. Expect 1. The use of Ilsa Faust. Froxon was phenomenal in Rough Nation, and when I heard she was coming back, another fist of the franchise, I was thrilled. Yet Fallout has trouble balancing her with the bulk of the movies. Her reasoning for getting back into the spy game makes sense, but it seems a bit too tiddy, and there's so much going on here that Ilsa was bound to save a smaller part than last time. But I wanted more. Paramount get cocking and that Ilsa Faust spin-off movie. Hell, bring back all the other female team members from the previous films, Paola Patton, Maggie Q, and have them assemble their own team with Ilsa as the leader. After trying and failing to catch Walker in the Tom Cruise running scene 2 and all Tom Cruise running scene, Fallout rockets to its anxiety-inducing climax. Everyone ends up in Kashmir, where could not you know its Ethan ex-wife Julia is working as a nurse with her new husband. So, the suspiciously Nick Patrick, played by Wes Bentley. Side note, Patrick is so polite and understanding, played by Bentley with a perpetual grin, that I was convinced there was going to be a last-minute twist where it turns out he's been secretly working for Lane the whole time, but no. Patrick is just a really nice guy, I guess. This is all part of Lane's plan. He's going to set off his nukes, kill Julia, and also contaminate the water supply to India, Pakistan, and China. And even that will ultimately starve a third of the world's population. How Ethan goes to stop this once he will think of something. That something is the most accelerating sequence in mission history. Not just one action scene, but several all intricate theatrical applause needs to be directed at editor A.D. Hamilton, who along with McQuarrie manages to make that could have easily been a confusing, muddled mess into a crystal clear sequence in which we know where everyone is at every single second. Ethan Hunt chases after Walker and the detonator by first tackling Farm and the commandeering a helicopter, giving way to a helicopter chase or fight. Ilsa and Benji locate Lane, who is hiding in a shake. This result is one of the best in the movie, which Lane gets the drop on both of them and comes very close to killing them both. Luther teams up with Julia as they both try to disarm one of the bombs. This is a lot of balls to keep up in the air, and it could have backfired. It's just one of these events lagged or failed to entertain. The result could be a lossy sequence in which we are cutting from a thrilling moment to a less than thrilling one. But McQuarrie keeps it all equally engaging and tense and funny. There's something inherently hilarious about watching Tom Cruise fly a helicopter, clearly unsure about what the hell he is doing. It culminates in a crash sequence and then a fist fight and then a moment where Hunt and Walker are both tackling over the side of a cliff. I have to pause here to highlight how brilliantly McQuarrie plays the audience here. The important item in this scene is the detonator, and it keeps getting kicked around. Dangerously close to the edge, the audience saw the film with collectively lost their minds during the sequence, groaning in fear and delight at what was going on. They were hooked, wholly committed to what they were witnessing. It made the scene even better. So, the movie Mission Impossible Fallout character work. This is a spoiler review, but you know how this all ends. Even if you have not seen the film, Ethan and his team triumph. Walker dies, Lane inappropriately survives. What's that about? There's no way he's coming back a third time, is he? The bomb is very close to going off and Ethan stops it with only seconds to spare. How close were we? His teams ask later. The usually says executed. There's an unexpected theresis in the conclusion of Mission Impossible Fallout. McQuarrie can stage an action set piece and then some, but he also understands that he has to focus on character as well. Those action scenes would not work nearly as well if we didn't give a shit about the people taking part in them. Ving Rhames is always a welcome presence other than Cruise. He is the only actor to stick with the entire franchise, but his Luther stick has been a bit slight for a good portion of the franchise. He shows up, he cracks a few jokes, he looks at computer screens. Rhames is a pro, so he makes all of that work, but Fallout give him more. First, he gets a surprisingly emotional moment with Ilsa in which he begs her to walk away because he knows Ethan cares about her more than he wants to admit. Rhames, acting here, he remains almost inhumanly still and brings his extremely deep voice down to a whisper, is happening. We hang on this every word. Later, Luther gets to share a moment with Julia as they work together to disarm the bomb. It was a blast seeing Luther doing stuff, not just sitting in a van watching a monitor. And speaking of Julia, how nice it was to have her and Michael Monaghan back. Ethan's marriage to Julia in Mission Impossible 3 was never going to work. You cannot have Ethan Hunt as a happily married man while he's running around doing dangerous stuff. The franchise could have simply forgotten Julia, killed her off, or never mentioned her again. But McQuarrie's scripts bring her back and give her something to do. She is not a damsel in distress. She is not a victim. She is right here in the trench trying like hell to stop the bomb. Ethan Hunt is a master of disguise in the Mission Impossible franchise, and Mission Impossible Fallout broke a related trend for Tom Cruise character after 22 years. The sixth installment of the Mission Impossible franchise is highly regarded for taking the action series to new heights. Director Christopher McQuarrie and crews managed to elevate the story and characters as well as the action sequence. This means Mission Impossible Fallout ending gave audience a great experience filled with the usual tradition of the franchise, such as daring stunts, clever plot twists, and more. Mission Impossible Fallout is a pivotal installment in the series for Ethan Hunt in particular too. The film brought a greater conviction tissue between the franchise through a returning character and a story that evaluated how much good he has really done with the IMF. In many ways, Mission Impossible Fallout brings the best out of Cruise's character. This also means continuing a number of key character stands such as Tom Cruise running in the Mission Impossible movies. However, the film was also responsible for breaking a streak for Ethan Hunt that dates back to the original installment. Fallout is the only Mission Impossible movie where Ethan Hunt doesn't wear a mask. The Ethan Hunt trend that Mission Impossible Fallout break comes with the franchise use of masks. The movies broadly put Ethan Hunt and other characters in believable prosthetic masks so they can pose as other people. Ethan mask wearing is the most frequent in the series as he has worn at least one in every installment except for Mission Impossible Fallout. The film remains the only time in the entire franchise where Ethan Hunt does not wear a mask in one of the movies. Ethan's history of wearing masks began in the original 1996 Mission Impossible as he actually wore 3 masks throughout the duration of the film. Krause's character went on to wear 2 masks in Mission Impossible 2 and 1 in Mission Impossible 3. He technically is shown wearing 2 masks in Mission Impossible Goose Protocol, although one of the examples come in a walkthrough scenario that did not actually happen. Ethan wore another mask then in Mission Impossible Rough Nation, skipped out on having one in Mission Impossible Fallout, and then tried a franchise record by wearing 3 masks in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Mission Impossible Fallout gave a good reason for Ethan Hunt not having a mask. There is actually a good reason why Ethan Hunt does not wear a mask in Mission Impossible Fallout. He was supposed to wear one of his meetings with the White Widow, but the technology to create the mask was broken during the bathroom flight. This made it impossible for Ethan's plan to continue and left him exposed to show his real face. Mission Impossible Fallout would have delivered another Ethan mask reveal if this plan had worked. It's likely the franchise wanted to subvert audience expectations played a part in the decision to provide an in-movie explanation for breaking Ethan mask tendencies. As a result of this decision, Mission Impossible Fallout mask usage is even more notable. The film still delivers 2 mask twists by finally putting Simon Pegg's Benji Dunn behind their wheels. This means Fallout is the only Mission Impossible movie where someone wore more masks than Ethan did. Mission Impossible 2 came close to setting the record as Ambrose and Ethan each wore 2 masks. Mission Impossible Fallout broke all the usual rules with masks as a result. Why Mission Impossible 6 helicopter scenes were so hard to film? The helicopter scenes at the end of Mission Impossible Fallout featured some of Tom Cruise's most arduous stunts as Ethan Hunt, but they were also a serious challenge for the rest of the cast and crew. In the film's climax, Hunt chases Henry Cavill's August Walker through the air by first hijacking a helicopter and then using it to take Walker out. It's a sequence that's remained thrilling 4 years after the movie release, but Ricard is working on is to preserve through some adverse condition. According to a 2021 interview with Cavill, Fallout's helicopter scenes were difficult to show due to the real circumstances in which they were filmed as well as lingering technical difficulties. It's a testament to what Cruise and the Mission Impossible team are willing to go through for the sake of entertaining moviegoers. It's why Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 and its sequel are sure to continue upping the stakes. The challenge of Mission Impossible 6 helicopter scene makes it better. One of Fallout's problems was the challenge of filming its helicopter scenes during winter in the mountains of New Zealand. Cavill told GQ, "That's 4 weeks of me hanging outside a helicopter with my hand in the wind and I am firing real blanks, and so it's not like CGI stuff I did. Not only was it cool and windy with black bullet results flying all over the place, but Civil headset didn't work. He could wait for the pilot to scream something and give a signal, and sometimes the Witcher and Man of Steel actor could just stick his head out the window and start acting in the hopes of the camera catching something. While no doubt a tough experience for Civil, that he says he is still grateful for the realism of the helicopter sequence, in part for the reason why it's so memorable. How Mission Impossible 6 set the bar for Mission Impossible 7. As the end of the Ethan Hunt story loomed on the not so distant horizon behind the scene, stories like Civil's show how Mission Impossible keeps setting the bar high for itself with each subsequent installment. The extreme length Cruise will go to in his movies, whereas its Mission Impossible or Top Gun Maverick are well established at this point, but it's a great sign when everyone else who works with him shares the same all-in mentality. It's a natural progression for a movie series to keep pushing the limits of what it can accomplish, but the Mission Impossible franchise is on another level due to its commitment to practical effects. For several, Mission Impossible Fallout helicopter chase sequence was the most difficult bit, but at the same time the most thrilling part of the filming experience. If Civil returned for Mission Impossible 8, he may find himself in the midst of an even more exciting filmmaking experience. Hopefully he'll be ready after he loads his arms. Henry Cavill calls Mission Impossible 16 toughest of his career. Henry Cavill said the filming one particular sequence for the climax of Mission Impossible Fallout is the hardest thing he's done in his acting career. Released in 2018, Mission Impossible Fallout is the sixth film in the cinematic franchise overall, which began in 1996. The movie is directed by Christopher McQuarrie and follows super spy Ethan Hunt's Tom Cruise as he attempts to stop a terrorist known as John Locke from detonating a nuclear weapon. The film brings back Mission Impossible characters like Simon Pegg's Benji, Rebecca Fox and Ilsa, Vingria's Luther, and Sean Horace Solomon Lane, in addition to introducing several other ones. Among the newcomers in Mission Impossible Fallout is Henry Cavill as August Walker, a brash but lethal CIA assassin who at first appears to be on Hunt's side when it comes to catching Locke and scoring the nuclear weapons. In a shocking reveal, however, Walker turns out to be the real Locke, setting him on a collision course with Hunt. After a number of close shaves, Hunt and Locke finally off in the film's third act, which takes place in the region of Kashmir. Mission Impossible Fallout ends with the Locke dead following an intense helicopter chase, and Hunt and his team having successfully stopped the nuclear detonation with only seconds to spare. In a recent interview with Collider, Cavill reveals that filming the helicopter scene in Mission Impossible Fallout Climax is the hardest thing he's done in his career. The actor explained that in classic Mission Impossible franchise tradition, the sequences were filmed mostly practically, with the frigid winter temperature making like expectation pleasant while flying with the door open in a helicopter. Although it was a trying sequence to film, Cavill clearly has no regret